As this is my first opportunity to rise in front of this wonderful House, I would like to thank the people of Kanata-Carleton for having placed their faith in me, and I look forward to being able to serve them as their representative. And I also look forward to being able to serve Canada's veterans as the Parliamentary Secretary for Veterans Affairs. Thank you for the opportunity to address the issue of Canada's contribution to the military effort against ISIL. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to begin by saying that I thoroughly enjoyed my 31 years I spent in the Canadian Forces. I visited over 65 countries around the world, and I saw the nature of the work that Canada can do and the contributions that she can make. I worked with some of the most intelligent, dedicated, and professional individuals in the world. And I've been involved in the operations in the first Gulf War, in Afghanistan, and that made a lasting impression on me. During my time at NATO, I spent 4 years in the NATO headquarters, in the NATO Air Headquarters in Ramstein, Germany. I gained a very solid understanding of the entire force effort required to succeed in any mission. I spent those 4 years in the operations branch, which required us to determine the list of skills and capabilities and people and equipment required on any mission that NATO was going to embark upon. And I gained an understanding of what was required to make a success of any one of these missions. You know, a lot of this operational support, such as training and such as logistics, it's not celebrated in the public view. It's not. But it's no less critical to the success of the mission.
Based on my 31 years in the Canadian Forces, including a period serving in Afghanistan and the headquarters at NATO headquarters, I'm aware of what men and women in the Canadian Forces can contribute to international missions.
And today, Canadians can continue to be extremely proud of our men and women in uniform. They are well trained, they're enormously dedicated, and they have a lot of work to do across this country and around the world. The men and women of the Canadian Forces have made a significant contribution already to the fight against terrorism and ISIL. And Mr. Speaker, they will continue to make a significant contribution alongside our allies in the fight against terrorism and ISIL. Today, Canadian Forces members have a global reputation not simply for our force projection capabilities, but also for our training and logistics capabilities. As we all know, the Royal Canadian Air Force has contributed to the air effort of this immense 60-country coalition, and all Canadians should be very proud of this contribution. The war on terrorism and ISIL, however, requires a multifaceted approach that degrades not only their fighting capability, but also degrades their command and control, stems the tide of foreign fighters into ISIL, denies their logistics and financing, stabilizes the population, and develops the long-term conditions required for peace, security, and prosperity, such as the development of a standing security force. Mr. Speaker, it is only by creating an environment that allows for the safety and security of its citizens that terrorism and ISIL will be defeated. Medium and longer-term goals must also address the region's ability to provide good governance, stability, security, and economic opportunities for its people. Canada and the Canadian Forces have world-renowned capabilities to help achieve these goals, and we need to step up our efforts in these critical areas. Suggesting that training local security forces to protect their country and their citizens is any less of a contribution than airstrikes is doing a great disservice to our men and women in uniform. Canadians have time and time again provided the training and support required for mission success right around the globe. And the Canadian Forces have provided this training in operational theatres, and it's been that way for years. This has placed Canada in a unique position of being recognized as experts in this area, and this global expertise will be a critical component in adding to the stability of that region. To achieve success in the region, Canada's approach needs to consider the many factors that will create long-term peace, and our government recognizes the need for a comprehensive, multifaceted, and calculated plan that addresses the end-to-end effort, not only the short-term objectives. And that planning, that consultation with our allies is currently underway. Mr. Speaker, Canada has world-renowned capabilities that can contribute to all aspects and phases of this comprehensive plan. But there's also a need to concentrate efforts on these next steps. Iraqi and Kurdish forces need to provide the means of maintaining security in the region to ensure the gains that we make as a result of the combat mission are not immediately lost. They go hand in hand. The lack of good governance, insecurity, and hopelessness, they're all contributing factors that drive terrorism, and they've led to the humanitarian crisis that we see unfolding before us today. Mr. Speaker, protection of Canadians is the most important mandate of any government. On a daily basis in Canada, the combined forces of the RCMP and CSIS, local and provincial and national police departments, the Canadian Border Services Agency, and the Canadian Forces protect the interests of all Canadians and perform their duties with honour and integrity. Here's a little fact for you. The Canadian Border Services Agency conducts interview screening on approximately 270,000 individuals entering Canada every single day. 270,000 per day. Mr. Speaker, pardon me? Mr. Speaker, while our government is committed to our Canadian Forces' contribution to the fight against ISIL, we are also committed to the safe and secure resettlement of these refugees escaping this violence and fear. As you heard, before arriving in Canada, refugees must undergo a rigorous, multi-layered security and health screening to ensure the safety of Canadians. Many of the refugees who are arriving in Canada now, they have been in United Nations refugee camps for years, and they've already been screened by the United Nations, the Canadian Immigration, Police and Security officials. There is no need to fear. If CBSA can handle 270,000 per day entering Canada, surely we can manage this task as well. Canada has a duty to display leadership and generosity of spirit, both in helping fighting terrorist groups and providing a new home for those who have been driven from their home. I have the utmost faith in the Canadian Forces. They do whatever they are asked of. They have the capability. They have the heart, they have the spirit, they have the brains, they have the skills, they have the talent, they have the will to do whatever needs to be done. And I'm very proud to have served, and I'm very proud to say we are looking for a long-term solution. And these are some of the ideas that we are putting forward so that we can actually make progress, not only on the short term, but on the long term as well. Thank you, Mr.